Hello and welcome to the TCS podcast, where we are dedicated to helping you achieve extraordinary growth and success to create lasting impact on your families, companies, and communities. I'm Eric Guy, president of TCS. Joining us today is John Summers, vice president of construction and utility sector at AEM. We're going to talk about that, the Association of Equipment Manufacturers. He's been with them for quite a while, and I'm going to let him share a little bit more here, but has held various positions inside of AEM since, I believe, 2007, with increasing responsibility over the years, and was promoted to his current position in 2021. Welcome, John. Thanks for coming on the TCS podcast. We appreciate it.
Yeah, Eric, TCS family, thanks for having me, and happy to be here. Looking forward to this conversation.
Yeah. So if we could set the stage, why do you think this conversation today for our contractors, especially our TCS community, is important?
Yeah, I feel like if we don't have these conversations, first of all, people kind of get stagnant in their business, right? I mean, I feel like with the way everything's changing nowadays, whether that's rising costs, workforce challenges, just sort of expectations for an organization, a business, we all got to learn from each other, right? I mean, I feel like just having conversations and being open and straightforward and making connections is really what this industry is all about. I mean, that's my favorite thing about the construction industry, and especially where I sit.
Yeah. So tell us how you got to where you're at, a little bit about your path and what led you into this space of supporting contractors and manufacturers and everything.
Yeah, it probably a little bit different path than maybe even some people would expect if they talk to me now. So I don't really have a construction background. I grew up in a small town in Wisconsin, really surrounded by farms. Obviously there's construction everywhere. So there was excavators and dozers there too and stuff like that. But, grew up small town, moved down to the Milwaukee, Wisconsin area, for college. Didn't really think about this industry, which I think is one of the challenges today. It's not really on people's radar. I mean, when I was going, to school, it was like the internet was newish and cool, and there's a lot of other technology, that people kind of think of. But yeah, I got pulled over to AEM in, as you mentioned, 2007. I worked in our marketing area, primarily marketing our trade shows, ConExpo, ConEg, Utility Expo, which was called IQ back in the day. Doing some online marketing, stuff like that, and really just kind of fell in love with the construction equipment space and the people in it. So I remember going to my first ConExpo, which, you said been here quite a while. It was 18 years this summer, a few months ago. So I'll date myself a little bit, but first ConExpo in Las Vegas for me was 2008. And I was stationed in the press room, where people kind of come in and have some meetings. And I just remember leaving that room and getting out on the show floor and being like, this is amazing. Like, I want to learn everything there is to know about all this different equipment. And realistically, from that point, like, never look back, right? I mean, I was in the marketing, function here at AEM, and knew that I didn't want to do that for the rest of my life, and needed to get, call it out on the road, right? More talking to people, more relationship stuff. And just started diving into everything and learning about equipment and technology advancements and all that. So kind of, you talk about other people, and maybe it was a family business, or, they grew up, working kind of construction as maybe a summer job, or working, ended up working at a dealer or something like that. And that's kind of how they got into space. I was a little different, but, wouldn't really want it any other way.
Yeah, that's great stuff. So what's the most rewarding part of serving as a bridge between manufacturers, contractors, and policymakers?
Yeah, I kind of mentioned this a minute ago, right? But it's really the people. I have some other friends in other industries, and not to pick on any of them, I won't call any out, but a lot of times it's more, it's kind of what's in it for themselves, and maybe more like cutthroat. I don't know what the right word is, right? But I mean, you think about what this world would be like if we didn't have construction and the built environment, right? I mean, everybody's quality of life would be so much worse, and, we wouldn't be in these buildings and, You wouldn't just be able to flip a switch or turn on your faucet every morning and, have electricity and take a shower and everything like that. Right. So it's, that and the partnerships, and we're not all in this alone. It isn't just a totally self-serving thing. I think that's the biggest joy or the biggest connection point. Right. I mean, I think it's, especially for my role, I'm not with, one equipment manufacturer. I'm with all of them. So it's really, kind of playing that middle ground between them, the dealers, the contractors, end users, project owners, operators, like anything all in between. It's really just that, the willingness of everybody to help everybody else and just being good people for our society.
Well, let's talk industry insights and then future direction here. Pick your brain a little bit. So from your vantage point, what are the biggest challenges and opportunities contractors have right now?
I think when, this is sort of a common question. It's kind of like challenges, opportunities, right? And I always kind of tell everybody, don't focus on the challenges. It's such a cliche thing to say, like every challenge opens a door to an opportunity, and whatever that saying is, right? But it's true. I mean, it's, for contractors and the construction space, right? There's different challenges on every job site, in every environment, digging in different soils, putting up a building in a city versus somewhere else, right? And, each one of those has their opportunity. I think people really just need to understand what that opportunity is, and then what they can use to overcome that challenge, right? So, I mean, the challenges right now are probably, if we do kind of focus on challenges, are probably workforce, whether that's lack of or just inexperienced people doing jobs they don't have experience in, as well as like rising costs, and I think whether that's the cost of material, cost of fuel, cost of labor, cost of, everything like that. Both of those can be overcome with technology and, figuring out how to do things more efficiently. I was actually listening to something literally this morning. It's funny how timing works. Sometimes you hear something in a different podcast or whatever, and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to use that. The person was talking about marketing, and they said there's really only two things you can control, and it is time and cost. And I think that kind of goes for life, right? So, I mean, if you figure out, do you need more time, or maybe in construction, you need to do this in less time, right? And it's like, if you think about your costs and what that's like, focus on those two things, and then figure out which one's more important in what scenario, and then what you can do to overcome that. Obviously, if you're doing things more efficiently or whatever, it might cost you more, right? So, I mean, it's not like they're both down, both up at the same time. But I think, realizing where some of those efficiencies lie, what you can do, there's a lot of opportunity out there.
How does AEM trade shows like ConExpo and things provide value beyond just like new equipment and stuff? Like, what's the value there?
Yeah, it's easy to say the equipment, right? So you said, besides that, I mean, are we 6 months out, less than 6 months out from March now for ConExpo? And we also have our utility expo show in Louisville, actually next week. So a lot of the pictures and the marketing, it's all equipment pictures, right? And not all of them, but that's the face of the show. That might be the draw. That might be there's a lot of cranes, out in that lot. Like, I want to go see that. But the value really lies in the people. I keep going back to the people, right? It's the making connections. You think about it, especially in this space, a lot of the contractors that come to that show are not competing with each other. There's plenty of work for everybody. They're in different regions of North America or the US or whatever it is, right? And a lot of them are experiencing the same challenges, whether that is workforce or machine downtime or, difficulty in different climates and stuff like that. So I think that the real value is making those connections. I think we have 150 or so different education sessions at the show, learning from those speakers, but also talking to the person next to you, or you're kind of waiting out in the hall after it and, making connections with other people and learning from each other. I mean, it's kind of a funny thing. Everybody always likes to, talk about how smart they are and, and things they know. I mean, it's just kind of a natural thing people do. But, especially in this space, it's really important to not really think of other companies as competitors or getting into your space and working on partnerships for sure.
And that's a great point. What trends do you see shaping the future of construction, whether it's technology, workforce, regulation?
Yeah, I think I've said technology like 50 times so far. I mean, I think it's that but it's not technology for the sake of technology, right? I always use the example, and again, not to pick on specific companies, but there's a company that makes refrigerators and they make TVs. And at one point, they decided to basically put a touch panel screen in their fridge. Like, is that necessary? Were their customers asking for that? I don't need to look at the weather while I'm getting a beer, right? So it's not necessary, right? And I think this industry does a really good job of listening to the customers, understanding their challenges. That's another advantage. I'd even mentioned this piece of it, at shows like ConExpo, but I talked about kind of the contractor to contractor piece of it, but also going in the booth and just talking to the people that, were the engineers or were the product managers of the equipment and providing them feedback. This industry really listens. I mean, there's companies that have people, put people out in a job site and just watch what their customers are doing and workflows and all this stuff like that, right? So I think really though, back to your question, it's almost like you could lump workforce, regulation, cost kind of all into one thing, and technology should be able to help you overcome those. The problem is that people try to do everything all at once, right? So it's like, I think we got to focus on, if you're a contractor and you're saying, hey, I need to reduce my carbon footprint, maybe I need some, hybrid, more fuel efficient machines, or I just need to run my machines less. So I implement like a grade control technology to eliminate rework, right? Or I have inexperienced operators, kind of go back to the grade control thing, right? I mean, it's like helping, operator assist stuff. Maybe, we don't have a lot of, I don't know if anybody really does, like a lot of like backup machines on this site, right? So we need to make sure downtime is minimal. So figure out somebody to monitor your data, do proactive maintenance, stuff like that, right? So I think, focusing in on what those opportunities for improvement or efficiency are, and then looking for the technology that can solve that.
We always talk leadership here at TCS, and I'm anxious to pick your brain as you see things, like as you work closely with leaders, manufacturers, government agencies. What are the leadership lessons that stand out from that experience that you've had?
Yeah, it kind of keeps going back to the people and the relationship piece of it, right? As I've kind of moved into more of a leadership role here, I think there's two things. And one is be really nice to everybody, because you never know where you're going to cross paths and what they can kind of, I'll say do for you, but I mean, what you could really kind of work on together in the future. There's been a lot of people that I've, met, when they were starting their career or at different roles in different companies, and they've reached out to me later and said, hey, I'm now responsible for this. We want to get more involved with AEM, or we want to, help something like that. So it's a lot of that relationship piece of it. From the government agency, and even like you could put like project owners, or when I say project owners, I'm talking like funding a project like a DOT, stuff like that, right? It's leading with education first. I mean, I think, some people think, oh, there's this regulator, kind of out to get me, right? I mean, nobody's necessarily leading with like a bad intent. They probably just are underinformed, right? So AM, especially in the regulatory space, is really taking the approach of proactively educating policymakers on the way things really work. That sounds kind of funny. But like the way that, the impact certain things could have either on our members or on the equipment, right? Whether that's, reducing emissions or adding, a different after treatment system on a machine, right? That's a lot of engineering costs. Can't do it by, January 1. It's also going to impact a contractor because then it hasn't been fully field tested. They might have problems with it, right? I mean, so it's kind of like just educating them on those unintended consequences. I mean, everybody agrees, like, let's have less of a carbon impact. Yep, 100%, right? But like how we get there and the time it takes, and then understanding, those additional or those unintended consequences for that is a really big focus of ours, right? So it's that, leading with education as opposed to, kind of being combative. I think that's one of the bigger, in leadership roles. I think that's really important.
What's one thing contractors often overlook that could significantly impact their long-term success?
So besides technology, I think I said workforce probably 20 times already, right? So I mean, I think that's a challenge. Probably is in any business, but I think companies sometimes focus too much on attracting employees and not retaining. I mean, sometimes the turnover or the I don't know, lack of advancement opportunities or outside opportunities don't really keep people interested, at a company, and they're kind of like looking for something else, right? So I think focusing on your employees that you have kind of goes back to the leadership comment too, right? Is empowering people on your team to, be able to have an opinion on something, have some idea, and, take it seriously. I think really focusing on retaining the employees you have and understanding what they want in life, like what they're passionate about, whether it's not even work, at all, right? I mean, just something else, and really getting to know them and just focusing on, being there for them, and empowering them to do things and making sure you retain them. That's really important. I don't know if a lot of people do that. I mean, they're like, I got all these people over here, they're working, they're good, and then kind of maybe not ignore them, but, kind of almost to that extent. I mean, it's kind of like when you get paid so much from a different cell phone provider to switch, right? It's like, why doesn't my current company just like me to give me a discount, right? So it's almost kind of the same thing. It's really, focusing on what you got and, nurturing that relationship.
Yeah. And getting into some kind of more practical things for contractors, if I'm a contractor listening today, what's one action step I can take to improve my business in the next 90 days from your perspective?
Come to Vegas and come to ConExpo in March. I guess maybe that's not 90 days out.
It's close.
It's close. It's close enough, right? Maybe by the time this publishes, we'll be within 90 days. That's my one ask today. I would listen, kind of my last point, right? Like listen to your team and figure out what the challenges they have, figure out what those are, right? And figure out the things that you think you can just improve on instead of, boiling the ocean or whatever, all those other, eating the elephant or whatever all those sayings are of doing everything at once, right? And it's learning or focusing on something that you think you can improve, and then really just diving into that. And I think fix that before you do the next thing. It's kind of like, we just built a new house and there was a few things I got to work on, right? And it's like, I'm doing everything all at once, so nothing is done, right? So it's kind of like if I just picked off one thing at a time, it'll actually make more progress. So, I think use some industry education. I mean, obviously ConExpo plug. I mean, we have our newsletter for that, coming to these events, learning from other folks that are willing to share their experiences, and then kind of diving in.
Yeah. A question for you, like some of our, especially our TCS members are a little smaller, mid-sized contractors. How do they tap into the resources that organizations like AEM provide? Yeah.
So, first of all, and I would tell small to mid-sized contractors this. I tell some of our, equipment OEMs or component supplier members that are smaller, right? Like, I don't think size matters as much as people might think it can, right? I mean, I've talked to a couple companies who are, maybe a guy worked for a larger company and spun off and started his own excavating business or own paving business or whatever, right? And it's like, we're just doing this. I'm like, yeah, today you are, but everybody should still listen to you you have as loud of a voice just as anybody else. From the resources, AEMs, like our brand outward facing resources are primarily to the equipment manufacturers. But through our trade show brand, so Utility Expo, ConExpo, ConAg, we have, things like I mentioned, like our news and the website, the connection to the shows. I think, back to the small to mid-size comment, don't be afraid to talk to some of the OEMs, other large contractors, there. I really, really don't think in this industry that the size or people knowing your size or however you want to equate that, right? Number of employees, revenue, whatever it is, right? I don't think that has as big of a perception impact to people as maybe it does in other industries. I talked about, going in the manufacturer's booth and finding an engineer and providing feedback. It's almost like kind of like negative restaurant reviews, right? I mean, it's like, I don't care who the people are, or positive, right? But I mean, it's like that feedback has just as much weight as everybody else, right? So and especially if it's one person saying it, or maybe two or three at the show, how many people are also experiencing that challenge or design feature they would like to see tweaked in the equipment and just haven't said anything.
Sure.
So, yeah.
All right, you ready for some rapid fire questions?
Sure. Love it.
All right. So one innovation contractors can't afford to ignore in the next 5 years.
Data. I think that's an easy answer, right? So equipment data. I think if we rewind, 15 years, I think accessing the data was the challenge. And then as we kind of move through the timeline, right? Like now it was too much data all at once, right? And it wasn't I think with AI coming into play now, the challenge before was I couldn't get my data. Now I have all this data and I don't know what to do with it. I don't know what insights I'm looking for. Unless I'm looking for something very specific on a machine, right? And I think then some people were hiring people, data scientists, whatever like that. I don't think that goes away, but the need to have that staff to do it is severely or really minimized, right? So I think collecting the data, just getting the data, understanding some of the nuances of your fleet, whether that's excessive fuel burn from specific operators, and that's, burning dollars in fuel and warranty hours and just unnecessary, or if it's, predictive maintenance and all that stuff like that. I think there's so many ways now and there's so many, calm technology or solution providers in this space that are helping the contractors with that. The ROI on getting data, being able to analyze data and take action on that is astronomical. I think that's the biggest thing.
Good. What's the most exciting thing you've seen at an AEM trade show?
I feel like there's the weird ones. Like I think somebody got married at ConExpo a few years ago. Yeah, right. Maybe this was just engaged. I don't know. In the industry, I think it's there's always going to be innovation and stuff like that, right? I mean, we'll next March we'll have some autonomous equipment probably running around, right? Like, or operator lists, whatever you want to call it. Like there's remote control or teleoperated machines where somebody's sitting in Las Vegas controlling something states away. Like there's this really interesting advancements in some of that stuff. And then you think about the why behind that is somebody could be at their house. Maybe I, had an accident and I can't easily walk out on a job site anymore. And now I'm doing it from the controlling machine from the comfort of my living room, right? So there's like those really exciting opportunities for people. But I'm going to sound super redundant here, but a few years ago, I saw a few contractors that actually organized a meetup, got together for no reason besides like, hey, we just don't know each other. Maybe we kind of knew each other on social media or something like that, and just got together. And I was made aware of this, not because to attend, just that it was happening. And what's happened since then is, and they were in different regions of the world. There was like North Dakota, Texas, whatever it was. And there's been some larger projects that they're now collaborating on. So it's kind of like, I don't think that deep of a connection would have happened if it was just, call it virtual or over social media. I think it was them getting together, in person and, going out to, dinner or the bar or whatever later that night and really creating that friendship. So then they were top of mind when some of these opportunities came up. I think that's more exciting to me than some of the equipment.
All right, next question. The biggest mistake contractors make when it comes to adopting new equipment or technology?
Yeah, it kind of goes back to my data thing. And I think AI helps with this, but it's really not dedicating somebody to learn it, right? It's just like, this is new. Let's get this thing. Let's get this new technology. And then they just give it to somebody and say, like, just go about your business and don't really, kind of explain to them, or they don't take the time to integrate it in fully or to educate their teams on two things, I guess, the why and then like how to use it and how to integrate it in, right? So, right, this, I always try to relate, business stuff to personal or as a consumer, right? So, I mean, if you buy something new, or I'm thinking in the office now, if we were just, handed, like we moved to Microsoft Teams, right? I mean, kind of in the beginning of COVID, and like if we were just given that, nobody would have known kind of all the features, and we would have had to do our own research. Instead, we scheduled staff trainings and stuff like that, right? So I think it's really just not educating folks on the technology or the why behind it.
If you could give one piece of advice to every contractor in North America, what would it be?
I think I kind of already said this, but like, don't think of others as your competitors, right? I mean, I think it's be open, be more transparent. I mean, within reason, right? I mean, you're not giving away the secret sauce, right? But be more transparent, be more willing to talk to everybody else that may be doing the same thing as you or different things. You might learn something from everybody. Other thing, and I think I was going to mention this before when, we were talking workforce and stuff like that, is like, don't be afraid to really get involved in the community. Like, there's so many, you always kind of say workforce is essentially a local, effort, right? I mean, there's a lot of national draws and trying to get people in this industry and the trades and everything like that, right? But there's probably a lot of people locally that just don't know you exist, don't even know that that's an opportunity to either work for you, work with you, meaning like a sub or a GC, right? And stuff like that. So I think it's like, just kind of get your name out there, get your business name out there, be a person, not a business first, right? Kind of, do stuff in your community. I think was probably the two biggest impact things.
And last one, fill in the blank. The future of construction is?
There's so many like easy words to say there, like exciting, fun. I think it's an industry to watch. Maybe people have seen those charts where, you talk about like the efficiency of industries, and there's all the ones that have, increased dramatically. I think McKinsey did a study on this, like, technology in healthcare has gone up, technology and whatever like that, and construction has kind of been flat. I think we're going to see significant jumps in the next, even 5 years, with just implementing technology, understanding how the implementation of it can improve businesses. So I don't know if I think I said more than one word, but like the future of construction is could be eye-opening for people, right? And if they really kind of watch how things were done to how they will be done in the next 5 years.
Good stuff. Well, I appreciate you being on. Any last words for our TCS community?
No, I don't. I mean, I'm happy to, take any comments, questions on this, and you can find me on LinkedIn, John Summers. But, I think take a look at, available resources, whether they're through us or, our trade shows or just other industry publications, podcasts like this one. I mean, I think it's like you can't absorb enough information. I mean, I listen to a lot of podcasts. A lot of them are kind of outside of our industry and just talking about, like just running a business, and it's kind of like sort of leadership without calling it that, right? And I think a lot of those things are just, you'd be surprised at how beneficial those are. So,
well, thanks for coming on. Maybe we can have you back again another day. But I appreciate the guidance and the wisdom that you've offered our group here. So appreciate you. That's a wrap for today, guys. Until next time, keep leading, keep growing, and keep winning. We'll see you next time.